Let's have a look at the formulas once again so you are familiar with every term that is in each equation. Simple interest is PRT. I usually write it as PRT over 100 because rate is given in percentage. You have to convert it into decimals when you are putting it in the equation. This is very important. Please remember this. When we talk about compounding, we have got exponential growth, which is P into 1 plus R over N raised to power NT. And if it is decay, the formula will be P into 1 minus R over N raised to power NT. Everything else remains the same. You can have a look at these values. I want to talk about N. That is the number of times the interest is compounded per year. And these are the values that N can take. If the interest is compounded daily, then N will be 365 because 365 is the number of days that are there in a year. If it is compounded weekly, then N will be 52 because we have got 52 weeks in a year. If it is compounded bi-weekly, then N will be 26 and so on. These are the values that N can take. If it is compounded annually, then N equals 1. I think this is pretty obvious. Secondly, you must be familiar with growth or decay factor. This is very important and I've seen that students get confused here. Please remember that the growth or decay factor is typically a percentage. That's how it will be given in a question or in words like this. But when you put it in the formula, you have to write it in decimal form. This is the key here. See, you have to write it in decimal form just like I did over here. So what exactly is the growth or decay factor? The growth or decay factor is the actual factor after the rate is converted into a decimal and added or subtracted from 1. This is important. Let me give you an example. So let's say if I say that the amount basically triples. This is a random example that I've come up with. What do I mean by that? We basically start with the original amount, that is, let's say 1. And then, my arrow looks really bad, 1. And then we add 200% to it. 200%, which is, you convert it into a decimal, 1 plus 2 equals 3. Your growth factor is 3, but the rate is basically 200%. Added into the original value, it becomes 3. Please remember this. So when we say that the value appreciates at 5%, we are looking at 5% or 0.05. The factor will be 1 plus 0.05, which is 1.05. If it depreciates at 10%, we are looking at this value 0.10, it is decay and the factor will be 0.90. If it doubles, we are looking at this value. If it triples, we are looking at this value. If it halves, then it is decay and we are looking at 0.5. These are the things that you need to remember. Now let's have a look at a couple of past paper questions. Questions 37 and 38 refer to the following information. Jessica opened a bank account that earns 2% interest compounded annually. Her initial deposit was $100 and she uses the expression 100 into x raised to power t to find the value of the account after t years. What is the value of x in the expression? So she earns 2% interest compounded annually. What will be her growth factor? It will be 1, which is her original value, plus 2%. So convert it into decimals, what do you get? 1 plus 0.02 and her growth factor will be 1.02. This is the amount that she will earn after, let's say, 1 year. So the formula would look something like this. Y equals 100 into 1.02 raised to power t. So our answer is basically 1.02. This is something that you will put in the grid. Let's have a look at the second question. Jessica's friend Tashun found an account that earns 2.5% interest compounded annually. Tashun made an initial deposit, I hope my pronunciation is correct, made an initial deposit of $100 into this account. At the same time, Jessica made a deposit of $100 into her account. After 10 years, how much more money will Tashun's initial deposit have earned than Jessica's initial deposit? Round your answer to the nearest cent and ignore the $ when gridding in your answer. So now we need equations. So basically, Jessica's amount will be y equals 100 into 1.02 raised to power t. So how much will she earn after 10 years? When t equals 10, just replace this value here and our answer will be y equals 100 into 1.02 raised to power 10, which is, let's do the calculation, and you will get $121.899. Now we need to do a similar thing with Teshun's account. His equation will look something like this. Y equals, he also deposits $100 into the account, but he earns an interest of 2.5%. So his equation will look something like this, 1.025. Please remember this. So how did we get this value? It is 1 plus 2.5%, which is 1.025. So let's replace t with 10. What do we get? Y equals 100 into 1.025 raised to power 10, and our answer will be, do the math and you will get 128.008. Now you take the difference of both the values and that will give us our answer. So Teshun is earning 128.008 minus 121.899. This is the value that he earns more, which is $6.11, rounded to the nearest cent. This is our final answer. And if you look at the graphs basically look like this. Let me bring this graph a little down. Yes. So which one is Jessica's graph and which one is Teshun's graph? Obviously, Jessica's graph will be lower because she's earning less. This is her amount. This is Jessica's graph and this is Teshun's graph. So after 10 years, if you draw a line, you will see, look at this. See, Teshun is earning more. He is earning around 128.008. This is something we have already calculated, and Jessica is earning somewhere around 121.899. And the graphs are exponential because obviously these are exponential equations. Let's have a look at this past paper question. Jeremy deposited X dollars in his investment account on January 1st, 2001. Always underline the dates. The amount of money in the account doubled each year until Jeremy had $480 in his investment account on January 1st, 2005. So he started in 2001 and now we're looking at 2005. What is the value of X? Please pause the video and read the question again if you want. So the situation can be represented by the equation X into, this is our principal amount, it doubles each year, raised to power t equals 480. And in this scenario, t equals 4 because you just subtract 2001 from 2005, you will get t equals 4. Let's replace the value. What do we get? X into 2 raised to power 4 equals 480. 16x equals 480. Do the math. X equals 30. This is our answer. If you ever get confused, just imagine a value and do the calculation. Let's say you deposit $100 into a bank and it doubles each year. So what do you get after 1 year? What do you get after 1 year? It doubles. Multiply by 2, you will get 200. What happens after another year? You double this value. What do you get? You get 400. What happens after another year? You double this value, you get 800. So how can you represent this? The initial value is basically 100. The growth factor is 2 raised to power t. That's it. So in this scenario, the initial value was, we didn't know the initial values, that was basically X. It doubled each year, raised to power t will give us our output. That is y, which is given to us. I just simply replaced the values and I got this equation. Next question. Susan invested a total of $5,000 in 2 different bank accounts and earned interest on both accounts. She earned 1.5% interest on account A and 4% interest on account B. She earned 3% interest on total amount invested. Which equation can be used to determine the amount of money X that she invested in account A? So this is our target answer. Please pause the video and read the question again if you want. So let's say in bank account A, she deposited X dollars. So from here, you can say that she deposited 5,000 minus X dollars in account B. Now we have got like two equations over here. The third thing you need to do is to look at the interest and then develop an equation from there. How much interest is she earning on bank account A? That is 1.5%. So 1.5% of X plus 4% of this value, which is 5,000 minus X, should give us the total interest, which is 3%. So 3% of the total value, 3% of 5,000. This is the equation that you need to solve. So this will basically become 1.5% is 0.015x plus 4% is 0.04 into 5,000 minus x equals 3% of 5,000 is basically 150. This is our answer. This is our equation, which is option choice, not A, not B, it's C. C is our answer. Next question. You decide to buy a used car that costs $10,000. You have heard that the car may depreciate, this is important, at a rate of 10% per year. It means that the value of the car will decrease over time. At that rate, what will the car be worth in 5 years? So we will use our compound formula. So A equals P principal amount into 1 minus R over N raised to power NT, minus because the value depreciates. When it is compounded, when the value grows, we have an addition sign. Please remember that. So our principal amount is basically 10,000. Then R is 10%, which is basically 0.1. N in this scenario is per year, N is 1. And T is basically 5. So just plug in the values and you will have your answer. So if we plug in the values, what do we get? A equals 10,000 into 1 minus 0.1 raised to power 5. This is what you need to solve, and if you use the calculator, the answer that you will get is, let me do the calculation, just hold on. It's 5904.90, 5904.90. So if I just simply round it off, I will get $5905. This is our answer. Megan has $20,000 to invest for 5 years. This is our principal amount and this is the time. And she found an interest rate of 5%. How much money will she have at the end of 5 years if the interest rate compounds monthly? So we need to use the compound interest formula, which is A equals P into 1 plus R over N raised to power NT. Our principal amount is basically 20,000. The rate is 5%, which is 0.05. N is, if it is compounded monthly, you should remember N equals 12 and T equals 5 years. We have all our values. Just plug in the values into this formula and we will have our answer. The equation will look something like this. A equals 20,000 into 1 plus 0.05 over R over N over 12 raised to power NT. N is 12 and T is 5. This is the equation that you have to solve. And if you solve this, use the calculator, the answer that you will get is 25667. $25667 rounded to the nearest dollar. This is our answer. Now let's have a look at the second question, which is the interest rates compound semi-annually. Semi-annually means N equals 2. That's all. Everything else remains the same, only N changes over here. So A equals 20,000, principal amount remains the same. we have 1 plus 0.05 divided by 2 into nt, 2 into 5. This is the equation that you need to solve. You can use the calculator and the answer that you will get is 25602. 25602 rounded off to the nearest dollar. There you go. By now, I'm pretty sure you have a good understanding of what simple interest and compound interest is. This is how their graphs basically look like. So simple interest is a straight line because the original value remains the same. So if you invest $100, the interest will be calculated on the same amount every year. But over here, the original value keeps changing every year. That is why it shows exponential growth. Just remember these two things. This is a straight line because the rate is constant and is added on the same value that you put in. The principal amount remains the same. Over here, the principal amount basically changes every year. That's the major difference, and because of that, we have an exponential curve for compound interest.